Welcome back to iFishNews, fishing podcast. Learn to fish by our trials and errors. Your host, Glenn, with the City Valley Fishing Field Team, COAF Field Team on YouTube. In this case, what we're going to be doing this round is, well, we looked at the Little Red Book of fly fishing. And in there's a multitude of fishing tips that yours truly has been using over the years. And so in sharing the knowledge, let's go and start going through there and start talking about some of these tips that they recommend specifically for fly fishing. So in the first part, or chapter 1, it's called The Cast, 45 Tips to Help You Cast Straighter, Longer, and More Accurately. And what we're thinking in this series is we'll just do 3, and then we'll go from there until we get through the whole book. So let's start out with tip number 1. Tip number 1, dare to be different. It's talking about taking a look at professional golfers the next time they're at a tournament on television. See that they shoot similar scores, but you'll be surprising in the variations in the swing. So takeaway from that is same is true with fly casting. Dare to be different. Try some different things. There's some classic strokes. There's some other strokes, but bottom line, do give it a try. Don't stick with just the normal 1, 2, or what is it? 10 to 1, 11 to 2. I think it's 10 2, and then they change it to 11 1. Anyways, it's suggesting dare to be different and go from there. Let's see. Number 2, it starts with the grip. It's talking about golf again. 9 out of 10 swings have flaws, can be traced to your hands and how you hold it. I believe the same thing is true with fly fishing also, depending on how you grip it. Sometimes I believe some of them say you need to keep a stiff wrist or lock your wrist like you do in bowling and keeping you from curving the ball. I think that's the same thing that they're talking about here. So I will keep that in mind over the course of the next few and over the course of the season, because fly fishing season is coming up soon. Specifically, trout fishing season is going to be coming up here soon in the near future, at least across the border over in Oklahoma. So 1, let's start out with fly casting and dare to be different. And then 2, starts with a grip. Kind of agree with both of those. Actually, I do agree with both of those. Okay, so let's go to number 3, point your shots. Okay, so just reading straight from the book. It's axiomatic that the fly line and thus the fly follows the rod tip. Taking the one step further, the rod tip follows the thumb, which is the strongest digit and the most anglers place on top of the grip for power and direction. Lee Wolf used to cast with his index finger on top of the grip because he felt it gave him better control. It was the exception to the rule. No matter, so long as you keep your thumb or index finger pointed straight for the target, your cast will go where it is supposed to go. Interesting. So point your finger or point your thumb. That's where your fly will go. Okay, so, well, that was pretty quick for a podcast. So, well, we just mentioned 10 to 2. And in point number 4, 10 to 2 is too little, too late. Many fly casting instruction books tell you to imagine casting as if your rod moves along an imaginary clock face, with the forward cast stopping at 10 o'clock on the imaginary dial and the back cast stopping at the 2 o'clock position. That's correct in theory. In reality, when casting, most people are oblivious to the positions of that imaginary clock. What feels like a 2 o'clock on the back cast may actually be a 4 o'clock. When I guide, I change time zones and suggest to the client to go 1 o'clock to the back cast. For whatever reason, most people achieve the 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock mechanics if they're thinking 10 and 1. So, we're talking about 10-1 or 11-1, 10-2, etc. It looks like it's suggested is to go 10 and then 1 because you have a tendency to drift over into the 2 anyway. So if you go to the classic 10-2, what does that mean? You're maybe going too far on the back cast. Adjust and cut it short just by 1 o'clock, and next thing you know, you're right on the money. So I'm going to keep that in mind. So let me recap again what the 4 points instead of the 3 for this podcast. Dare to be different. 2, it starts with a grip. 3, point your shots. 4, 10 and 2 is a too little, too late. Okay, so all for now for this round. Over the course of the next few, we'll probably take this in mind and maybe even try doing it while we're out there, while we're fly fishing, just to reiterate the point from this podcast. Anyhow, some quick updates from the past few weeks, or this past week since we last met. Back to Denison Dam, tried doing the underwater camera shots, and almost lost the camera. Luckily, I was able to go jump in the water and grab it. And with that multi-tool, I was able to cut it away from the braided line that it was stuck to. Because you get a 2-year one-time loss replacement But I only just got it a few months ago and don't feel like using that policy, or at least that warranty, so close to having bought it. As well as while we were out there at Denison Dam, they did start generating about 10:30, and it was a slow bite before generation. It was also a slow bite after the generation, but I ended up not striking out by catching a gar as well as losing a big one. I think it was a gar. It could have been a striped bass. Definitely fought it for a good few, and then it was off. So bummer. And oh, by the way, it looks like this weekend, the Collin County Fly Fishing Club is going to be out there trying their chance at I believe, a carp or a buffalo at the tail race. So do keep that in mind. Maybe check them out on Facebook, Collin County Fly Fishing Club on Facebook. All right. All for now. Thanks for joining us. And do stay tuned next week. We'll go through the next set of tips. And hopefully during that week, maybe even try some of them. All right. Catch y'all later. And good luck and good fishing.